guys, so today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read in the month of March. So March was a weird month, I think, for everybody. It was really crazy with everything going on, but I still got 5 books in. I read 2 physical books, 2 audiobooks, and then 1 ebook. So not too bad for me. I usually average like 3 to 5 books depending on the month. I've kind of tried to be a little more proactive since starting this channel with reading. So yeah, I will go ahead and I will jump on into talking about the books that I read this month. So the first book I'm going to talk about was the only ebook that I read, and that was Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This follows our main character Hannah, and she is kind of just in that stage of life where she's just not really sure what she wants to do. She's kind of bounced around from different cities, and she has had a bunch of different jobs, and she just hasn't felt like she found her place where she's happy and where she can call home. So she moves back to her hometown, and her family actually doesn't live there anymore. Her parents moved when her sister got into a school in London, and so that is where they live. So she comes back to her hometown, and she's actually living with her best friend Gabby and her husband Mark. And so they take her in, and the first night she's out, they go and celebrate her being back. And when they go out, she runs into an old high school fling named Ethan, and they get to talking, and he actually asks if she wants to come home with him that night. And so this story is really cool because it follows 2 different storylines. In one, she tells Ethan no, that she will not go home with him, and in another, she tells him that she will. And so it follows the story of Hannah and what could have happened in either scenario if she told him yes or no. I wanted to pick this up because I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo last year, and I really wanted to read some other books by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I think that I kind of set up in my mind that I would like it as much as The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, because that book was just really great. And this one I liked, but it didn't blow me away. I thought that in Evelyn Hugo that the characters were so well developed and that everything was just so well done, and then in this I thought that the main character really lacked any depth to her. Her 2 big qualities were kind of that she liked cinnamon rolls and that she liked to have a big bun on top of her head, and that really wasn't enough to make me feel connected to her. While I did enjoy the plot of the story and I didn't dislike any of the characters, I just never got to the point where I really cared a lot for them. So that kind of ruined, I think, a little bit of my opinion on the story, but I did give it 3 out of 5 stars. The characters were kind of the only thing that I wished kind of would have been a little different, but nonetheless it was a cool story. I liked both of the endings. I won't say too much because I don't want to spoil it, but I do like her take on it, that there wasn't just one way that the story could go, and I appreciated that. I would recommend it if you were looking for just a nice kind of easy read. But yeah, I definitely liked The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo more, which I know is like one of her biggest books, so it's not too much of a surprise. It's definitely not going to keep me from reading any of her other books. I'm actually really excited to. I am reading Daisy Jones and the Six right now, and I'm loving it. So I think that this just maybe wasn't my favorite book from Taylor Jenkins Reid, but like I said, I'm excited to read her others. She's a very talented author, and I think this was just a book that I don't think it really stuck with me very much. The next book that I read in March was Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered by Karen and Georgia from the My Favorite Murder podcast. I love this podcast. It's definitely something I listen to in spurts because depending on the stories, they can make me a little bit anxious and just sometimes scared. I'm pretty easily scared. But yeah, I love the humor that they can bring to things. And so when I heard that they had a book coming out, I was so excited. I knew I wanted to pick it up, and so I actually listened to the audiobook because I've mentioned in previous videos I love when authors read their own stories, especially when it's about them, because I just feel like that I'm sitting there with them and they're telling me all of this stuff. And so I thought it'd be cool to get to know more about these people that I listen to quite frequently. And so I listened to it and it didn't disappoint. I really loved their humor. They talked about some pretty serious topics in this. They do such a great job of keeping it serious but also lightening the mood pretty quickly, and I just think that it was really great. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because the one thing that I think would have just made it so much better for me is if they would have talked more about the podcast, creating it, and getting together to do it. They briefly mentioned some things about it, but to me, I just think that that would have been really cool to see it kind of all come together, or hear about it all coming together. And so yeah, I don't know if anybody else had that complaint. It's definitely a small one. I thought the book was great. I would 100% recommend it, especially if you listen to the podcast, because it is just so cool learning more about the people that you are listening to, and I almost feel like I know them a little bit. I really liked this. It was a really great read. So the next book that I read in March was Clockwork Prince by Cassandra Clare. This is the second book in the Infernal Devices series. This follows Tessa Gray, and she's actually not a shadow hunter. So far I don't know what she is yet. They're not really sure, so I'll see if I find out. She ends up living with a group of shadow hunters, and it follows the shadow hunter she's living with as well as her. I don't want to say too much about this because it is a sequel and I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. I know it came out kind of a while ago, but I am actually reading all of Cassandra Clare's books for the first time, and so I know there's people out there that haven't read them either, and so I just don't want to spoil it for anybody. But I will say this takes place before her Mortal Instruments series, and so it follows a lot of the ancestors of characters that we do see in the Mortal Instruments series, which is so cool. I really like seeing when like last names come up, like Fairchild and Wayland and Lightwood, and so it's really neat to see that and read about those stories. I will say I definitely get the hype around Will Herondale now. I know that sometimes when there's like an overhyped book character here on BookTube, that sometimes I'm a little let down or I just don't really understand the hype, but with him I definitely do. I love his sarcasm, I love the humor he brings, and one thing I will say in this book is that you find out more about why he is the way he is. I don't think that's a spoiler, but I really enjoyed reading about it. This book unexpectedly made me tear up a little bit. I think I just became so attached to the characters. I think Cassandra Clare does a great job of writing characters that I end up really caring about. I don't know if there was a character in this book that I wouldn't be interested in knowing more about, and so I think that that is really cool. I am definitely a character driven reader, and so this was definitely a great read for me. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. I am so excited to read the next one, Clockwork Princess, so we will see. I know that a lot of people say that that is the best one out of all of the Infernal Devices, if not Cassandra Clare's best book, so I'm so excited to get to that one. Hopefully we will see that one soon. I have been getting these from my local library. Now I'm not sure when I'll get to the other ones because our library is closed due to the coronavirus, so I don't know when I'll continue on with her books, but I'm definitely excited. This one made me so excited to continue on with this world. So the next book that I read in March was My Favorite Half Night Stand by Christina Lauren. So this follows 2 friends, Millie and Reed, and they are part of a friend group, and one night they all go out and Millie has, you know, a couple of drinks, and Reed takes her home so she can get home safely, and she invites him in, and things ensue. So as a friend group, they also decide to all go on this dating app and try to find some people to date, since they're all single. Millie actually creates an account under a name Catherine, and she takes a picture, she uses a picture that doesn't show her face, and she just feels that she can be more herself this way and it's easier to open up. And so one night she's checking her matches and she sees none other than Reed, and so the two get to talking, and Reed does not know that it's her. It kind of follows the awkwardness of Millie having been with Reed and then playing Catherine, who he's also getting to know. I thought this book was okay. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I wasn't super attached to these two characters either. I honestly liked the friend group more. I liked the scenes where all of the friends were together. I thought it was a lot funnier, and just, I don't know, the two main characters were kind of dull, and I wished that we could have seen a little more of them being friends before the whole thing with them happened after the bar, because I didn't see the chemistry between them, because it just kind of jumps into, oh, they're at the bar and they're friends and now they are going home together. That was just, I don't know, I didn't really understand, like, had they flirted before, had there been chemistry before, was this something that we could have seen? It wasn't a terrible book, it was just very okay. I read The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren this summer, and I just absolutely loved it. There was nothing about it that I didn't like, and I think, again, like I said with the other book, I think I just kind of set my expectations too high with it, but I am still gonna read more Christina Lauren. I think that their books are really funny and cute and just kind of easy reads, and that's what I was looking for with this. I was really stressed out with school and just all of the changes happening, and this was a book that I was just hoping would be a nice easy read, a nice little getaway, and it was. It did what I thought it would do. I just kind of wish I liked the characters more, and I wish we would have seen more of their dynamic. And I listened to the audiobook and it was good. I do like that they had 2 different people playing Reed and Millie, because it is told from both of their point of views, which I also liked, because you kind of see him not having any idea that this Catherine is Millie, and then you hear Millie's point of view where she's kind of caught in the middle of this lie. I would recommend it if you're looking for just like a nice easy read, a nice escape, nothing too intense. If you've read that one, let me know what you think, because I know that their books are really well loved, and so that was one that I had heard a lot about, so definitely let me know what you thought of that one. The final book that I finished in the month of March was The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Haro. So this follows our main character January, and she lives in this house with a man named Mr. Locke, and her father actually works for him, and his job is to travel to different places and find these unique items for Mr. Locke to keep in his house. And so January a lot of times is just alone in this house with him, because her father is out doing his job. January finds this book titled The 10,000 Doors, and it talks about all of these different worlds and how to open these doors, and she's just so intrigued, and it kind of follows her from there. I don't want to give too much away because it's really hard to describe this without going into spoilers. This was not the book for me. I was so bored. Nothing really happens in this book. So a lot of people told me that if you got past the beginning, because the beginning is just so slow, that it picks up and you can get really into it, and I never did. I just found it so slow, and I think that I thought it was going to be a little more magical than it was, and it just wasn't really magical at all. I had no interest in the world, and I was really confused a lot of times. I don't think the whole like magic system made much sense in my opinion. I read the synopsis for this a little bit ago and it didn't sound like something I would be super into, so I kind of just tossed it out of my mind. And then the Three Blondes in a Book Club run by Zoe, Kaylin, and Liv, they all picked this as their February book pick. And I know Mackenzie from Mackenzie Lane, she has a book club over on Goodreads called the Story Alice Book Club, and this was their pick for February and January. So I was just like, oh man, if that's not a sign that I need to pick this up when all of my favorites are reading this book, I gotta check it out. And so I did, and I just wasn't a fan. I didn't really like any of the characters. It just, nothing really grasped me. I know that a lot of people really loved this book, so I definitely have quite an unpopular opinion, but I don't know, I just couldn't get into it. The writing is really like poetic and flowery, and that just didn't do anything for me. I found it kind of annoying at times. She does a lot of like, she uses a lot of like metaphors for things, and it was very overdone in my opinion. She does this thing, let me see if I can find it, where she will take a letter in a word and then she describes the first letter by explaining the word. I don't know if that made any sense. So in this part she says, I call that in-between place the threshold now. Threshold, the line of the T splitting two empty spaces. And that was done a lot in this book, where like she would explain the word by using I can't even explain how it's done. She uses like the first letter to explain why it's the first letter of the word by explaining the word itself. It's so strange. I don't know. I wasn't into the flowery writing. I just really wasn't into any of this. I gave it 1 out of 5 stars. I was so happy when I was done with it. And it's not that it actively made me like angry or anything like that. It just, I found it so boring. I never wanted to pick it up. So I started this book, I said, back at the beginning of February. And so that means that from starting this book, every single book that I read in my February wrap up and every book I read in the month of March was all done while trying to get through this book. Like, I just kept putting it down and I would never want to pick it up, but I wanted to get through it because by the time I was over halfway finished, I was like, I spent too much time on this book. Like, I have to know, and I have to know if it got better because this is such a loved book by people. I definitely wouldn't let my opinion sway you from reading this. That was just my opinion with it. But I would be so interested if you have read this book and you loved it to let me know what you loved so much about it, because I don't know, it wasn't for me, but that's okay. Not every book can be. So those were all of the books that I read in the month of March. Let me know if there were any on that list that you read, or any that are on your TBR, and also let me know what books you've read this month, or what books you're planning to read next month. I'd be really interested to know. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me. I will see you in my next one. Bye.